Welcome to Connecting the Dots podcast, brought to you by The Collective. I am your host, Grace McNamara. Together, we look at business like a sports team. We'll connect the dots between every player in the team, the audience, and the essential plays that are often overlooked by leaders. With a strong gender-balanced focus, we'll bring together discussions from across many markets that connect women's health, purchasing powers, leadership strategies, and business growth. We'll be chatting with thought leaders, executives, and champions of modern business to uncover the stories of challenge, success, learning, and privilege, and what's coming down the track in our evolving world. Together, we'll connect strategies of best practice and celebrate the rising leaders ready to take us into the new era. Welcome, Kathleen Ferguson, Mullane. Thank you guys for joining me today. This is exciting because I know we're dialing in from San Diego and obviously here from London as well. So lots to talk about across the waters. Kathleen, I want to start with yourself. Introduce yourself for me, connect the dots from your background to where you are today, and because you've got an amazing business that I'm really looking forward to sharing with everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Kathleen Ferguson. I am currently the CEO and founder of my startup, Coach 360. I started as a fitness professional on the gym floor 16 years ago. Prior to that, I was a theater major, so ended up in the media space and went through a very traumatic event in my life that kind of changed the course of my career and really what I wanted to do at the end of the day, which was to impact and help others live a healthier, more fit life. That's why I got into fitness, became a personal trainer, and immediately felt much more purpose aligned in my everyday life. But like so many other coaches and trainers in the industry, I had such a difficult time figuring out how to scale and develop a career that would sustain me financially. Ended up meeting the incredible original founders of Idea Health and Fitness Association, Peter and Kathy Davis, who, of course, they have since sold off the company. And I led a sales team there for about 10 years. I met so many different interesting people and brands along my journey there. Ended up during one acquisition, taking on a couple of direct-to-consumer brands in Oxygen Magazine and Yoga Journal. So cut my teeth a little bit in direct-to-consumer marketing. COVID hit, and like so many others, was kind of forced to jump ship and homeschool my 3 young kids. I had one going into kindergarten at the time, and then I had, they're all 15 months apart. So very, very young. So decided to kind of launch my own consulting business and help some other health, fitness, and wellness startups and homeschool my kids. Most recently, I was hired on as a subject matter expert for Athletech News, and I helped to kind of build up their sponsorship media over there. And then woke up this January in New York City after an event, and I just really felt this need to go back to my roots, which was personal training and coaches. And there's so many outlets out there that report the news or kind of talk about different things that are relevant to the owner or the entrepreneur. And I really wanted to help coaches create a career where they could grow in and they could really continue to do what they love to do, which is to impact and transform lives in the most positive way. So I decided to launch a media platform and brought on a co-founder of mine who was a client of mine for some time and just became a dear friend. And we launched this media platform back in May. And in launching this platform to support and uplift and empower health, fitness, and wellness coaches, of course, we had to have a job solution for them as well, thus also addressing kind of the biggest issue going on right now in the United States. And from my understanding, it's a global issue, which is staffing. We brought in some of our commercial partners, and now we're able to really connect the dots and tell the clubs and studios, tell their stories to the coaches to really help these coaches understand if the role is aligned with their skill set, their geographical preference, and also just kind of, is it the right company culture for them? And I think that that's going to help overall in terms of this employee turnover issue that we're having here, and also the churn out rate of the personal trainer and the coach. So that's my journey. And that's kind of where I'm at today. I'm running a startup and I'm loving it, and I'm having an absolute blast connecting with these amazing people. It fills my cup. I'm excited to, work every single day. And that's where I'm at right now.
It's fantastic. And you're right. I mean, the startup is amazing, but you're an inspirational entrepreneur, Kathleen. So I appreciate everything you're doing. It is solving a problem, but also you're leading the way in so many ways. So it's actually been an absolute privilege to watch what you've been doing this year, as well as to get to know you as well. So thank you. And Ian, likewise, you've got an amazing background as well, another entrepreneur. Connect the dots for us.
A little alternative, I think. So just like Kathleen, not a fitness background, not from an industry background at all. I spent the vast majority of my early part of the career on trading floors, and was more likely to be working within an investment bank or a hedge fund than I ever was to see inside of a gym, to be quite frank. I've got a good few years on Kathleen, so I won't take us through all of mine just for the space of time. But I found myself in Singapore in 2003 was the first stage, and I went through a bit of a fitness journey as well. It came around the same time as my first child was born, my son at that time, and I couldn't find a fitness facility that met my requirements at that stage. And I was also getting more and more frustrated with corporate life. It didn't really represent the values that I wanted to, I think, again, bringing back to the children, that I wanted the children to be able to see. And I made a decision that arguably wasn't the most well thought out decision at that particular time. I can remember the conversations at home weren't particularly well received. But I decided that I would found a gym, and I would found a gym without any experience of it, but I would utilize that lack of experience and quite genuinely had no connection, had nobody at all to talk to. I would build it around the premise that I felt was proper for the industry at that time. And the facility was built with 24/7 access, which then wasn't heard of. Everyone had control of the music system as well. So depending on who came in, there was this that aspect of it as well. It wasn't manned in any shape or form. It was, I learned to believe, called boutique fitness apparently, but at that stage it wasn't something which I had no idea. So, but clearly coming from corporate and the background I had, that wasn't ever going to be my life's mission. And quite frankly, it introduced me to great many friends who I would still call friends to this day, but it was always more a side hobby than anything else. I got back into technology. I have a quantitative finance background. I've got some expertise in machine learning and artificial intelligence, but predominantly machine learning. And I got involved I built another product for social media analytics whilst with the gym. And around about 2018, I'd moved back to the UK, been back to the UK for a few years, and I noticed that the club, which by that stage had grown quite extensively, was the largest club in Singapore at that stage, was suffering from this problem called retention, which wasn't something that we'd ever had to give consideration to before. We always found that we had a net movement, but competition was increasing, cost per acquisition was increasing, and in Singapore, costs only ever go up. I mean, give you an idea, the 10,000 square foot facility we had there, we were paying $120,000 a month. Wow. For a month for that, so extensive. So I hypothesized that the data that existed within a fitness organization probably had the predictive capabilities for us to be able to understand whether a member had the probability of leaving or staying. And again, cutting a long story short, that turned out to be correct, and KeepMe was born in 2018. The business has focused more these days on member acquisition, and what we are trying to do around the world is to build products which, again, very much like Kathleen, she's aligning what she sees as the market opportunity and the issues that the industry has. Same with ourselves. Fitness operators generally do not have large technology teams. They don't have extensive capability around technology. They want to purchase the solutions. They understand the value in them, but they don't have the capability of being able to do that themselves or indeed manage anything that's super complicated. So The KeepMe product set, it works in 3 core areas. A sales agent, which is Antares, and then we've got Veritas, which is predominantly a CRM sales platform, and then we've got the retention product as well as a whole. And all 3 of those products are specifically designed for quick deployment with a quick ROI coming through onto the market side as a whole.
So both of you are solving for very complex problems, but realistic problems in the industry as well as the broader sector of industry in general. Kathleen, what are you seeing right now in relation to gender balance, as well as just the element of the problem we're solving, the growth of the problem, as well as the solution that you're bringing with Coach 360? How are you seeing that you're affecting it and impacting that part of the equation?
Well, with this media platform that we built with Coach 360, we're offering a voice to women in leadership. We're also offering a voice to bring a diverse perspective to, some of these health issues, the unique health issues that women are facing right now. I think, having worked in media for some time, one of the things that I've learned is that there aren't enough women voices, talking about the issues that are relevant to women's health. Right now, femtech is an exploding industry. And in order to, really address some of these issues, and in order to, really, create products that move the needle, we have to have women's voices represented. So Coach 360 is really offering a platform for that. And that's something that I've been really excited about, is bringing more women's voices to health, fitness, and wellness media, and bringing their stories from these coaches, these women coaches, to the forefront to talk about, how they're addressing women's health issues with their clients. And, one example is that we had a video series this past September. And, one of the things that I've noticed, and, I'm not calling anyone out here, but there are a lot of platforms that, simply check a box to, kind of just, put a woman speaker in there. We actually had 28 of our 40 speakers were women on our Ignite video series. And I think that we need more of that in order to move the needle, in terms of, creating balance and diverse perspectives for some of these health and fitness issues that we're addressing with technology and all these things that we're talking about today. So that's what we're doing from the Coach 360 perspective. We're just bringing these voices to the forefront.
And it's brilliant, because to your point, we're both in the same journey here, where we're not only amplifying our own voice, but more women in the industry's voice as well. Because you're right, is that balance. And Ian, we talk about balance all the time, because you're talking about customers. Obviously, the world is gender balanced, right? So if we want our customer base and our problem to be solved across that, we have to address that.
Correct.
You're kind of unique, right? A man's man, but very unique in relation to the businesses that you run, the teams that you have. So give us a little perspective here, because you are a little bit unique in having a business that's largely got a female
run.
executive
Yes,
team.
That's correct. So yes, I am the only one on the leadership team who is male from there. And as you and I have discussed, I have a bit of a track record in that particular area. I think we also know I don't think about it in terms like this.
Right.
So and I know it's great that I can be pushed as an advocate to it, but in the reality is that I have what I believe to be the best team that exists in the industry. It's a high performance team. It just happens that the entire leadership team is female. But in the same respect, it is the different perspectives that we've been able to bring in there. So particularly in tech, there is many cultures which are based around the bromance aspect of it. There's a lot of bro culture that exists within technology, and looking at some of the problems that we have in the marketplace, looking at some of the solutions we have in the marketplace, ignoring the dogma that goes with what the perceived solutions are to achieve it. I think the progress that we've made over the last few years, and I think has been very much driven towards the different culture which I think we have within the organization. But I've got to keep on having to point it out. It's not because we chose to be, it is what we have become. And before, it should also be pointed out, they are my recruit. So I've recruited them. This isn't a case that, Steffi, who's my number 2, is the COO, has come in and then built a leadership team around that. That's not the case either.
Yeah.
But we've definitely benefited. And I think that when everyone else has said left and we've gone right, when everyone else said up and we've gone down, we've been right more than we've been wrong. And I think that is because we are not prey to the dogma that goes with the expectations that comes with probably having an imbalance in the team, or a positive one.
And he said, exactly, you're hiring the best people for the job.
Absolutely.
And Kathleen, we've said the same thing, we've talked about this before. If you hire for the best person for the job, that balance will kind of naturally come about, and you'll naturally solve for the problem in a way that just works for industry and works for people. And that's really a very key aspect, but it's not always, what we see sometimes. Kathleen, when you look at what Ian's talking about there, are you seeing that elsewhere, or is Ian one of the only ones?
No, I think we're starting to see it elsewhere. But I mean, to his point, there is very much so a bro culture that is still very prevalent in this industry, in particular, surrounding technology, of course. And I think, being a woman entrepreneur, we face different challenges as well. It's, investment dollars do not go towards women-led startups very often. In fact, I think the percentage is somewhere, at around 4%. So I think, while there is progress, there's still, a long way to go in terms of, support of women-led businesses and women entrepreneurs.
Tease up more of that for me, Kathleen, because for the audience, they may not appreciate the complexity or the differences. So just tease it out a little bit more for me. Like, we talk about funding as one difference and challenge. And I always say, from a physiology perspective, genders were different, our neuroscience is different. So hence the need for balance and the need to think about it differently. But go back a little bit, because investment is one thing, which we know is definitely different. What have you seen, and how are we going to solve this?
I mean, I think, in its most simplest form, I have, a male co-founder. When him and I go into a room to pitch, or if we are at an event, he is automatically looked at as the leader within the organization, not me. So, I mean, I think that's something that, is just very simple that I see quite frequently. And that, kind of goes the same with investment. I mean, I think, right now, what I'm seeing is that, most of the, startup dollars in health, fitness, and wellness in our industry, do typically, they're not going to women-led businesses. I think that kind of the preconceived notion that the leader of the company is always the man, that's, really the big shift there. And it starts with that, and that changes by, making a concerted effort, like Ian has done. And I mean, to his point, he doesn't make an effort. He's selecting the best people for the role within the organization, which is great. But I think there needs to be a more concerted effort to bring women leaders onto boards, as well as onto, your executive team, within this industry. And I think it starts there. And, once that, is progresses, I think that, we'll start to see as an industry, more investment in startup and seed round dollars going towards women-led companies in the technology space.
And you mentioned femtech is exploding, and it's obviously an area that there's a lot of investment, and women's health research in general is getting more investment, as well as much more publications and much stronger evidence around, very complex conditions, whether it's endometriosis right down to pregnancy and right down to menopause and everything else. So thankfully, lots of investment, lots of dollars going into research, lots more to talk about. So with that, I think to your point as well, as you've got unconscious bias and conscious bias happening at the one time. And hopefully, part of the reason for this podcast is unearthing some of the unconscious bias that naturally we all have. And we all have unconscious biases. That's completely understandable. So it's not to say that, we're all perfect. Thankfully, I think we're all well aware that right now nobody is perfect. But it is even just calling out what are some of those unconscious biases in order to do that. Ian, you're an investor. You've been involved in the world of investment as well for a long time. What do you see is quite different? And is there something that we can call out as an unconscious bias that we should be talking about to make sure we're getting to balance?
Listen, I hear the statistics and I see them all the time, and I understand them to be correct. I think that coming from a math background, the one thing that troubles me around that particular number, and here's me putting myself out for a smack now, is that it is only a small amount that goes to female founders, but as a proportion of the quantity of female founders, that's one of the challenge. The other denominator in that equation is clearly the quantity of them on that side. I hate it when I hear Kathleen say that she walks into a room and the male founder gets the exposure. It's probably one of the reasons why I don't walk into the rooms myself, even though I'm the founder and the team leads, and I stay out of it on that particular side of things. But we know that it exists. We know that there are beliefs relative to as Kathleen will tell you, startup life is tough. It's never easy. Every single day, it is gut-wrenchingly bad. And as much as we have our positives and as much as we have our highs, etc., we know that on a day-to-day basis, we are dealing with a lot of hard aspects. The question that I think investors pose is, to what degree can they get the same commitment out of their female founders that they can get from their male founders? On the basis that, for instance, Kathleen is a mother, she's got children, she's got hundreds of different commitments on top of running the business as a whole. Now, as I say, this is a bias.
Yeah.
I know that when you found a business, you find a way to make it work, right? You will work whatever hours is necessary to get it done, regardless of what other commitments you've got. Yeah. I would hate to think that, and this is a bias which shouldn't have been ever considered, but my first priority in life, and the investors won't like it, is not the business in any shape or form. I don't care about that. I only have one priority. The only thing I ever want to be remembered for in this life is I'm a father, and that is my primary thing. So, but that is not something that would ever be seen in a conversation. An investor's not going to look at him and look at on the other side and say, that big fella over there, all he really cares about is his kids. No, he's going to go to war for us on that side. Whereby they'll look at Kathleen and they'll go, but what happens when she's got soccer practice? What happens when she's got things? That's wrong, because to be honest, I'm the one who is generally going off and taking the time to go and do that with the family, because that's my priority.
Yeah. Kathleen, it is so different, isn't it? And I think to your point is we're starting to see the call out that, and I do, and we started the collective earlier on this year, and Suze has 2 kids, and Suze has been off traveling, and we talked about like LinkedIn and saying that she was a mom, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah. Like, we genuinely had the conversation, and it was a good conversation. But like, I've never thought about it with a dad, to your point of is, and you're actively very committed.
Tell me, why did you have that conversation?
Again, I think I'm like that. Me. Yeah, no, I'm biased towards it as well. The perception and reality, to your point, is we got to put all of our best feet forward ultimately. And the positioning of, Kathleen as a founder, I'm like, Kathleen's going to go to war. To your point, the assumption may not be there by default. So we have to create that narrative of Kathleen's a founder and she's going to go to war for that.
And listen, it's not your investors you get up for in the morning. It's the children you get up for in the morning. It is keeping the children safe. It is about giving the children the opportunities that they need in life. It is about giving them what you want to give them as a parent. That's what makes you go through the 16-hour days, the 7-day weeks, all of these type of things, which you have to go through to get to that particular stage. But I think the bias will continue for. The bias will not go away. Yeah. I think there is a reality. It's certainly that bias is not going to change to any great degree. The VC industry, the investment industry itself, is trying to do something about that at the moment, but we need to see more female GPs. We need to see more female participation within the VC and the PE industry over as a whole. But the interesting number on that is that number has not changed even when the GP has been a lead female investor as well. And their argument, when they're asked the question, is it doesn't matter who's sitting in front of us, it has to come down to what the investment is, and that's what we have to do.
And it is interesting, Kathleen, I'm sure you've seen this as well. I mean, some of the data behind it is important. I mean, we still see, give or take, depending on the part of the world, about 90% of domestic chores carried out by women. So that's still a very evident statistic, and I don't think is trending too fast forward.
You've not been in my
so
house,
to the point it's there. I mean, that is the data. And again, there's definitely exceptions to the rule. I appreciate that. And actually why I was saying I'm loving watching the emergence of dads of today who are actively involved in parenting and changing that. But we've a long way to go before it's 50-50. And it might not get to 50-50 for different reasons. But it is important to call it out that, this is true. Kathleen's expected to be doing, give or take, 90% of the domestic chores.
It's true. And I just wanted to say, I loved what Ian said about just, taking that active role as a father. I think, the more we're talking about that, the more it does challenge that bias. And we are seeing more and more fathers step up and take larger percentage. I'm not going to say I take on 90%. Like my husband, he is extremely active in the child sports. We all have our roles within the family, right? But we are seeing, definitely a movement of, these more active and engaged fathers who, I think that also comes with, we have this new work-life balance with all of the remote work, right? We don't have to drive to an office necessarily every single day. So now fathers are able to take that more active role, in, helping, with, part of a partial load of the work that goes into managing a household and managing a family. So I just wanted to say, loved what you said, Ian. And to your point, Grace, I actually take that bias head on. I post about my children on LinkedIn. I posted a picture of our elf who has come out. He came out in November, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to share this because yes, I'm an entrepreneur and yes, I run a startup, but I also want to share this other side of myself. And maybe I overshare at times, but I think it's important to be authentic because we can't always make things look like, it comes easy to us. Or, I think that doesn't promote, healthy, just a healthy perspective for anyone that's out there working their, just working these long hours and these long days. I think it's important to put it out there. And I understand LinkedIn's a professional platform, but I do like to put it out there sometimes that I'm not just this entrepreneur, not just running a startup. I am working long hours, but, my family is very important to me. And, I will take that challenge head on all day, every day. If, an investor or a C-suite executive or somebody, takes issue with that, they're probably not going to ever be the right partner for me because at the end of the day, my family is my legacy. And, that's, a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing is because creating this healthier universe by bringing more professionals into our industry and keeping them in the industry is going to create a healthier world for my children.
No, you're absolutely dead right. And I think to your point is the more we talk about this, the more we can get through the bias and we can balance out the conversation. I talked recently about the maternity, paternity leave as well and the balancing there. We see obviously the Nordics are kind of way ahead in this aspect and hence we see happier, healthier, outcomes for that, for the family, not just for the kids. So we're definitely trending in that direction. And I think when I probably started my career, let's just say 2 decades ago, give or take, I know, right? We would have seen the idea of that, men taking paternity leave was nearly a negative, whereas now it's like, why would you not take it? And how much ultimately it's increasing in terms of the weeks and so on availability.
I'd love to see the numbers about how many that do, though, because even when the environment, particularly, if I reflect back into finance, I can not imagine anyone coming off a trading floor to do paternity leave, and I doubt that's changed.
Really?
Yeah,
so
I
finance with
changed.
it.
So that is finance, right?
Yeah.
So, but I can't see it, and I look at other sectors as well, consulting, McKinsey, that type of environment as well. No, I'm challenged to believe that, and I think again, we're not talking about these one, but legal again, Any of the white shoe law firms, I can't see it.
We definitely have some space to go. Kathleen, do you see it in what you're seeing in terms of the sector?
The paternity leave, yes, absolutely. Maybe not so much in the tech space or in the investor space, but I mean, when it comes to health and fitness brands that I work with, paternity leave and kind of how fathers, the role that they play with their family, it's very, very important. And it's an important part of company culture that, many executives in the health and fitness industry look for when they're considering a new role within an organization.
Yeah. Ian, what would be the one thing that you would talk to? Like if you're looking at there's guys coming up the ranks, whether it's in trading or finance or fitness and so on, and they're looking at you and your success and your career. What would be the lessons that you'd be saying, like, think about this from this perspective or this angle, and don't make these mistakes?
God, that list is long.
Pick a few.
Order of seriousness in chronological order. God. What I don't try to do is try to pass on too many of them. I mean, I've got a 21-year-old son at the moment who's more than capable of making every mistake I ever made 3 times over, and I'm not doing a fantastic job at managing to keep him. I think, the one thing I have been consistent in saying is that I think that entrepreneurs currently are put on a pedestal as being these superhero type individuals. I don't think it's a lifestyle for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I definitely would suggest that people give consideration to a work-life balance which reflects who they are as an individual. So when I said that I no longer felt that corporate aligned with my values, I was a new father at that stage. And I realized that the accomplishments or the successes that I was having within corporate life were nowhere near as powerful as participating in the day-to-day activities. And obviously, as you know, with my daughter, we have some complications because of the disability. But having I was enjoying having that type of engagement much more than I was in the competitive environment from a corporate perspective. So I think that anybody who's coming through at the moment needs to spend more time understanding who they are, what they stand for, mm-hmm. and what they would like to achieve overall in life. I think it's easy for me at my age and maybe at my stage of career to make those decisions because you can somewhat remove the financial compensation aspect of it away. And that obviously is going to be a major driver for each aspect of it. But I'll go back to that entrepreneurial one again and say, it seems like the choice for people to make, mm-hmm. but it is a fantastic journey, but it is not for everybody. And particularly when I, participate in pitch sessions and those ones, I want to hug some of them and say, put the business plan down. It's not for you. You will not survive this. 3 months in, it's all over, right? And 1 month later, I find out someone's giving them 5 million quid, right? But and that's the way it works as well. But then also you find out 12 months later they're gone. Yeah, on that side of things. So.
Kathleen, what are the lessons you look at? Because you're dealing with a lot of people, and obviously you're an entrepreneur when you've come through, big organizations as well as coming back to starting your own. And we see in the fitness sports sector at the moment as well, lots of people coming into the sector, like Ian from, a corporate background, like yourself from a corporate background, and actually choosing to come into more life health type of companies. To your point, but partly around the why. They've realized what's important in life, and obviously enjoying what they're doing is a big important part of that. Are you seeing the same, Kathleen, or how are you seeing it?
Yeah, I mean, first, I just want to say, again, I love what you said about, kind of figuring out a little bit more, Ian, about who you are as a person. And I felt like I came to that point last year. And I always share this with people because I think it's important. Last year, I got a life coach. And I never thought that I'd be one of those people that would get a life coach because I just wanted to understand myself a little bit better. And I, kind of felt this lack and a bit of, unhappiness and discontent. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And I think, in having that coach, I was able to understand what I really wanted, out of career and, also, just out of life in general. I wanted to travel. I'd never been anywhere in my entire life. I'd never been to Europe. I've literally never left the country until I turned 42 years old. This year alone, I've been to Europe, I think 4 times. So, I mean, it just shows you, if you focus on trying to figure out who you are and what you really want. And I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And in trying to figure out more about who I was, I identified that and I was able to go into 2024 with that energy and was able to kind of attack those things that were important to me. That were purpose and value aligned. So I just wanted to comment on what you said there. But in terms of lessons, I guess I would pass on. I mean, just so many learnings, and they happen all the time, right? We're constantly learning. But, some of the bigger ones for me in my life have been life and business have been, just to, lead with authenticity. For so long, I felt like I had to, be a certain way, or I had to tiptoe around, people in business. And I didn't really feel like I could be myself or share my true story. And what I came to realize is that in sharing my story, it inspired others to, maybe, do something that felt more purpose aligned for them. So I would say lead with authenticity, because who you are authentically is beautiful. And people will connect to that, and people will be inspired by even the things that you think are wrong or challenges that you faced in your life. People will be inspired by how you came out on the other side. So I'd say authenticity. And then, the other big one for me is that I always talk about is show up, be in the room, show up at your industry events, because there is nothing more powerful than continuous education, at industry events, but also connecting. I think the connection piece is so often overlooked because we're so used to now, like, everything's done on Zoom, right? Like, I was joking a little bit when I said, hey, bring me out to London next time so that we can all hang out together. But in all seriousness, like, that would be, that's amazing. Like, to be able to, like, go and, meet with people in different places and, at industry events and break bread with them. I mean, that has been the key driver for me in my career, has been connecting with people. Some people in this industry I've known for over 16 years, and they are still clients or industry colleagues, and quite frankly, they're friends. And I think that that's a really important thing for, kind of people coming into the workforce to understand, because they aren't from the connection space, they're from the digital space. And, everyone's on Zoom now. So, just encouraging these newer professionals to get out there, go to industry events, connect with people, get to know them on a personal level, and, build that trust with them so that you can, continue to do business and do business authentically. So those would be kind of my takeaways.
So Kathleen, whenever I come to London, whenever I come to Ireland, Ian's also an Irish background. So I'm like an Irish flag, literally walking the walk, as well as inviting everyone, come to Ireland. We'll do an Ireland session, Kathleen. We're great like that. And as you say, Europe, obviously there's lots of events over this side of the world as well. I want to go back on one thing you talked about as an entrepreneur, and Ian, you talked about it as well, around, you talked about board and strategy and, again, entrepreneurs and so on. As we're looking at, ultimately boards, and there's a European directive coming in over here, Kathleen, where at least your board is 40%, representative of females on it. And we have research recently as well around, that tokenism is not valuable to the business. It takes about 3 people. And to Kathleen's point around hearing the voice and creating an opportunity for more voice, it takes about 3 people at a board of a minority to be heard effectively for it to actually impact on strategy. Ian, how are you seeing the board dynamics changing across different parts of the industry, knowing that we're heading towards 2026 where that, and it's a mandate, unfortunately, that has to be fulfilled.
Why,
the penalties are not
Why
huge.
did you say unfortunately then?
Because I'd love it not to be needed to be mandated, that we naturally had, to your point of, you hire the best person for the job. And if you want to have, a diverse strategy for a diverse customer base, you have a diverse voice around the table. But, this is the reason why Kathleen is doing what she's doing, partly, is to create that opportunity for a voice. Now, and I'm also like yourself, we've talked before, Kathleen, around we need more women to get up on the stage, right? We need more women to put their hand up for those roles. We need more women to go, I'm willing to be a director. And we talk about Steffi, for example, in the terms of her journey, her career is phenomenal, and she's really leading the way, especially as a young, professional as well. Yeah. So we have to step up as more women, and I'm a massive advocate and pusher for going, just even if you're uncomfortable, be uncomfortable, get on the stage, use your voice, be competent and accomplished and credible, and just get over the confidence issue, which is partly the challenge that we seem to have. But from a leadership perspective, at a board level and dynamics, again, are you seeing the shift yet, or have we still more work to do to get to having enough to go, we have a diverse opportunity and a list of candidates with the right skill sets with the right experience and background in order to do that effectively?
Well, I've just found out about the 2026 thing.
You just found out about it? Okay, well,
now.
good to know.
It won't surprise you to find out that 50% of my board is
not
women,
surprising,
right?
your board's already there.
It's not really something which I need to give consideration to from that degree. I'm not
You're not seeing it.
I'm not seeing it. So that would suggest that 2026 is necessary to start to see some aspect of that. I think in the places where I'm on board, no, I'm not seeing it at all. I'm hunting to try and find a nugget that would suggest that we're moving in the right direction. But I would also suggest that was more because of people putting themselves forward as well. So if we look at the industry as a whole, if we look at the fitness industry as a whole, if we look at our sector as a whole, I don't know what percentage of it is female. So, and then if you look at that and say, for instance, it's 40%, then arguably a 40% representation on the board is going to be something which is going to be possible from that side. But if it's only 20%, then what we will do is we will take them back, because it won't be tokenism, it will be poor performance. We will end up with people on boards. And you know, I know yourself, you've been doing professional accreditation and taking it all very seriously, because you have a responsibility. You are representing, whether it's employees and customers, investors, or whoever else. You do not want a situation where the first individual onto that then takes us backwards. Yeah. And you know, being on a board it's not about attending a board meeting, right? Yeah. It is about having confidence to speak up. It is about having the curiosity to investigate what is actually going on within the business, understanding the numbers, but understanding the reasoning behind the numbers. It's having the confidence to challenge a chief executive in a meeting when a comment comes out regarding a piece of strategy which you fundamentally don't believe is the correct thing to do. But also having the empathy and the emotional intelligence to be able to do it in a way that keeps everything cohesively together. I think that it is critically important that the first people under a directive of 2026 that come into play do not take you backwards in that particular area, because it won't be something that people will actively police to the degree that you'll want. And if the first examples are not to the positive, it's not going to be a good outcome.
This taps on something, Kathleen, you mentioned as well around the investment side of things. So I've talked to a number of female, VC firms, and likewise, the standard is high. And I think we've always said it that, we whether we have to work harder to get the same results, and we talk about needing to be better to get the same results. And I think, to be fair, when that the VCs that I've talked to are saying, look, the criticism is higher, the bar is higher, so hence it's a higher bar to get over in order to get the investment and so on. And this is the same story, right? Is we can't just have, again, tokenism. I'm not a fan of it. It's not a case of put a person, who happens to be the right gender. It is getting the right skill set with the right education as well as the right background for that role, and getting that skilled, diverse skill set and diverse thought and diverse credibility around the table. Kathleen, I'm just doing my exams from the Institute of Directors in Ireland in order to be that, and again, to understand the complexity, but also the cohesion that you need to create in order to have respectable dialogue, respectful challenge, and ultimately cohesion across the group that makes the best product for a population. Kathleen, in terms of the US side of things, are you seeing a change there at board director level, being more diverse and more open to it, and not just from a gender, but from an ethnicity and skill set and experience?
Yeah. I'm not, I don't know the exact percentages, but I wanted to go back to something that you said about women in general on these boards and having the confidence, whether it's being on a board or, speaking up in an investment pitch, whatever that may be, getting on stage, overcoming fear, finding your voice. All of those things resonate with me. And the reason why I think that a few things need to happen in terms of, kind of promoting more progression towards having more balance in general in the industry. And those two things are, support, from, the male counterparts. Ian is a great example. I can name so many other men in this industry who have supported and uplifted women in leadership and, helped them in different areas. And I think number two is leadership development. And we're starting to see this come to the forefront for women specifically, to understand, just the different ins and outs of investment. I mean, I don't come from a business background. I was a theater major at USC and a skateboarding punk that listened to rock music. I don't have that side of the business. But what I do have is I have a very strong and powerful vision. And there's a lot of women out there that have this powerful vision of how they want to change the world to make it better. And we need to have better leadership training for women to understand some of these other areas, because one of the things that women are really great at is delegating. So I have a fantastic, couple of people on my team that do know about those things that can help support me there. But I would personally love to have more of a hands-on leadership training, because I didn't have that background. And I think if more women felt that way, we would see more of them come forth and, take on, more roles in these boards and also more roles in leadership. And we would have access to untapping their incredible potential for their innovative ideas that they are holding inside because they're afraid to speak up and, let it all out. So those would be two things that, I think would really help to progress us to that place of more balance.
Ian, when you talked about earlier on about, again, it's like the likes of Steffi, and, you've been a phenomenal, mentor and coach, no doubt there. And Kathleen talked about getting a coach last year as well, and that power with it. I think what we're saying here is that it's working together with different skill sets and different backgrounds that enable us to get to a better place. What's stopping, or is there anything stopping, the breadth of experience of leaders, male leaders across industry, ultimately being part of the solution and being a coach, being a mentor?
There isn't. I don't think there is. And again, I'm getting credit where credit is not due. If I am mentoring, coaching, or whatever else, I'm just doing my job as the CEO, and that is my leadership team. And again, it just happens that they are, right? I would suggest that in the environment, men will often feel that if they were to suggest that as a relationship, it would not be accepted properly.
Interesting.
And if so, when I look at the more informal mentorships that I have, they have asked for it, and I've been a willing participant to do so.
Yeah.
But if I gave consideration to whether I'd have gone to them and said, I feel I could probably help you out in a few things, would it? No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to overstep that line.
Yeah.
Because
delicate balance, isn't it?
It is a balance. And I'm talking about whether it be within the business or even external to the business, and it's not just that, is your motivation going to get questioned? Why would you want to do that? Right. So there is that. And then I think the other aspect is that, maybe men, that fear of rejection plays in as well, where, I go, Grace, listen, I really think we could, work together and I could, maybe help you out, and you go, not a chance, right? So, and then when that happens, so that stops. So I do think that if an individual, regardless of gender, is looking for guidance from somebody who they believe can provide it, asking them to be a mentor is a much different question than asking for specific help around a specific area.
Yeah.
And just like anything else, a relationship develops over time. I don't think I've ever set out to be a mentor as such. I think that is something that has evolved as the trust between the two of us has increased, and my experience and their willingness to accept it. Because the other thing you'll find is that there are a lot of people who will ask for help, but they're not willing to listen. They will ask for help, but they're not willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And, you don't want to be, you're not a shortcut. Generally, if they're requiring help in an area, it's because there is no shortcut to it.
Yeah.
And whilst you want to help them not make the same mistakes that maybe you made or that your experience can help them with, you don't want to find that your efforts, and I've called mentorships, but I've been very open about it. It's I made an offer, we engaged around the topic, And unfortunately, we haven't been able to get to the stage where I think that I'm still adding value to this relationship, because I think that my requirement for you to engage is too high and you're not prepared to do that. So unfortunately, I think it's going to be better that we move back to a more reactive relationship.
And do you think most like leaders across industry, if they were asked to be a mentor, would be like, happy to help if they feel like they were the right fit?
If they believe in the person, yes. So, you don't want to be the patron saint of lost causes. And, you do unfortunately get a few of those as well. And I know that sounds incredibly harsh, but if someone comes to you and represents very clearly what it is that they are looking for assistance with, it is a cold leader. I'll tell you, so I've only ever asked once. And I asked this individual on the trading floor, and I'm going to swear, so just be ready for the swearing because it was on the trading floor.
It's an adult podcast.
Yeah, it happened. So I went up to him, and this is the head of trading, and I was probably 22, and I thought I was on the track, and I said to him, in an environment, I'd watched him all day. I'd waited until he had the opportunity to go and engage him in the conversation. He had nothing else around him. Market was shut, boards were quiet, we were all good. I walked over, I won't name him because he's a very prominent member of Goldman Sachs to this day. And I said to him, could I just ask you one question? Yes. What piece of advice would you give someone like myself who is just starting off? And he looked away and he said, don't ask fucking stupid questions would be my advice. Now. Fuck off.
Ooh.
And that was the only time I ever asked, funny enough.
Really?
Because of it, yes, on that basis, right? Because you get, so knowing the individual like I do, if he hears that story now, he will be utterly mortified on the basis that, clearly didn't have too much of a negative effect. But B, we're also, I think that we need to understand that when people reach out, they are showing a level of vulnerability. Yeah. And I think we've got a bigger problem with men asking for mentorships than we have women.
Yeah.
Because men will not want to openly admit that they have a weakness in a particular area, or they will not want to admit, unless it's abundantly clear through title, experience, and age, that their individual is not a peer. And is an individual that they can learn from. And when I think back on the people who may have requested my time in any shape or form, I will still go 90-10, female to male.
Okay.
So, it will be there. And in fact, I don't remember any male who's actually come out with it as overtly, whereby I have had females who have said quite literally, is there an opportunity for us to have a mentor relationship in a format that would work for you? I can't imagine that coming out of a man's mouth.
This is really interesting. And Kathleen, I was in the US the last, probably more than 12 months than anywhere else. And I think we come to a point, and like the US is probably the extreme in one way, but we're talking about, females in particular, because that's what, I'm aware of and how I've lived my life. But like, there's an element here of we've no more inabilities and vulnerabilities being hidden by men. We have higher suicide rates often in men. To your point is, Professor Scott Galloway talks about like the men are not okay. And I'm very conscious when we're talking about gender balance that it's not about attacking, it's not about criticizing, it's just about having a conversation to go, there's a better way of doing this. And I think it's very important that we can call that out, that it's not about attack or intimidation or, criticism. It's just about we operate differently physiology wise. And that's obviously my background. We operate different from a neuroscience perspective. But we got to find better ways, because if men need mentorship, women need mentorship, then ideally we should all go, who is the right person that might be my mentor, and go ask them. And if they can support, great. And if they can't, okay, who else? Because the point is, and you've called it out, Kathleen, having a coach has been hugely valuable. I've had thankfully some great mentors over the years that have made phenomenal differences to my career path, and also been really supportive about just going, go do it and support. And it is sometimes just need that person to check in with. It might be in very intensive, or it might not be. It might be just go do it, have the confidence, get over yourself. Whatever right. Insecurity is holding you back, just get on with it.
But I think also bigger organizations, probably not mine and Catherine's, but bigger organizations can formalize it as well. They can link people up with who they feel would be a benefit. And call it what you want, call it a mentorship program, call it a guidance or whatever else, but give it in a cross discipline. So it's not that the accountant is paired off with the CFO. It's the accountant is paired off with the chief commercial officer, that the CTO is paired off with someone from the accounting team. And, they are giving them the guidance, but it also, as a mentor as well, you learn so much. You learn the perspectives of somebody else. You're learning how somebody is perceiving a problem, which you don't see as a problem because you've got the benefit of experience. And then you sometimes realize that even when they are approaching the problem, they're approaching it in a different way than you approached it. So when you learnt it, you were learning it from a different perspective as well. So I think if individuals want to have a mentor, and I think it's a valuable thing to do if you find someone that's worthwhile in doing. Mentors should understand you will get a lot out of it as well. Right?
Yeah.
And there'll be days when you won't, but you will get a lot out of it as well. And there is nothing more positive, just like parenthood, there is nothing more positive than watching people take that step forward that you've had an influence in, right? But they've done it themselves. That is, that's one of the highlights you'll have in your career and you'll have in your life overall.
So I think the warning sign for this is for the directors and the leaders across the industry and the world to be like, watch out. Hopefully you're going to get more questions from people, male and female, for mentorship and coaching and support in whatever description or shape or form that takes. Because we have got obviously phenomenal, people across, but sometimes I think it can be intimidating, or it can be they don't want to, so we have to step up and be like, I need to have a director or mentor that I want to be able to learn from. And likewise, every other woman who wants to be on a board needs to do the same. Every other man who wants to be on the board needs to do the same. So we need to step up and take control of that, because it's our careers end of the day.
Well, another one. Sorry, I'm dominating here, Grace, but I think a real important one is that if we are going to get to the stage, so let's use Steph as an example, right? So Steph is now Chief Operating Officer. She's a member of the board, and she's still very young at that stage. But she's just been appointed onto the board, but she's been with the board for the last 12 months. Yeah. And I knew long before she did that she would be joining the board. I knew that this was the role that she would be getting onto. So if we see this as an important step in making sure that we have more representation on boards, identify individuals now and work with them to start building the skills. Because as a business leader, what is critical is that when you make that mark, Steph's now on the board, there was no transition. It's just, she's just back to doing what she's witnessed before. But she also is able to, she's learned the patterns, she's learned the rules, she's learned what's going on in that side. You can, for instance, for someone who wants to join a board, you could have them as an observer for the first 6 months or 12 months, right? Really have them and bring them in that part. Because also people get intimidated by the process or the structure, and they don't understand, exactly what goes on. If you can remove that, then by the time the person joins the board, they are not focused on the environment, they're focused on their contribution. And it's the contribution which is the value to a board, not your participation and not just your attendance. Yeah, that's a great call out with the observer role. And likewise, you being a champion, but obviously, and actually one point with Kathleen, thankfully, Ian is not just the unicorn. There's plenty of men that join the podcast that are thankfully, again, part of the solution, taking intentional action to help create the balance with it. We've lots more to go, but thankfully I have a whole host. I know I used the word male allyship, and you were like, that's a funny term. Not every man understands what that means. I didn't, we've had this conversation recently. There is a whole lot of vocabulary which is utilized that we don't understand because you're going to be surprised to find out they're not reading your posts in the first place. So and when they see that, they just feel they don't relate to it. I mean, and I was very honest with you, I had no clue what you were talking about on that side of things, right? But I think that you've always got to look at your market, you've also got to look at your audience, and you've also got to find a common ground on how you're going to communicate with them, and bringing in new terminology to all intents, because I understand the concept and it's absolutely fine, but I think it's the way it's understood which is the important aspect there.
I'm very conscious when I talk about terms that I understand, because likewise, I'm in an echo chamber. We're all in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
We're used to what we're used to seeing, and it is an echo chamber, but to talk to a broader audience. So yeah, I'm happily. So Ian's going to start calling out all of the words I use that are possibly from my echo chamber. Kathleen, when you see the voice that you're bringing to the industry and to the market, what are you seeing is changing? And is there anything that you need to be kind of, again, talking to the audience that's not in this echo chamber typically, and helping them to be aware of, or they're thinking of, how do I, again, be part of the solution? Is there anything that you think of, here's the one or two nuggets that we need people to be aware of? Mine is definitely terminology. So I'm going to take that away to start making sure that I'm open to it. And again, for those listening and watching, I want anyone to go, I don't understand that term essentially, or it's not resonating. So we can have that open challenge in a respectful way. That's like, we're all trying to do the right thing to get a world. For me, it's a more healthy, active world.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go with the word mentorship. I mean, that would be, mentorship kind of plays a role in everything that we do at Coach 360. It's a huge part of what I do in my day-to-day life. I not only encourage the coaches on our community platform to leverage each other's experiences and get to know one another and find a mentor within our community, because being able to find someone whose career path you admire, that you potentially follow, as a model for your own, I think that that's a really powerful thing. And that's a big thing that's lacking in our industry in health and fitness, is how do we take these coaches and give them a mentor to help them to guide and develop their career, because there's no two paths that look the same for these coaches. Many of these coaches, they don't last past 2 years. There's an 80% churn-out rate. They need to find a mentor. And many of these coaches will then go on to, become regional managers or potentially even owners of a franchise. Many of them will evolve to, become an entrepreneur, or they'll work their way up and they'll love a format and work for that organization. So there's so many different paths they can take. So, I think the takeaway for me is really mentorship. Find a mentor, become a mentor, serve others and uplift and empower them, connect them to the right people that could potentially be mentors for them. I've had so many personally in my life that have, really helped illuminate a path for me. And I'm just incredibly grateful for those people. For me, one of the big things that, I've been working on is, how can I help others, potentially position myself as a mentor to others. And one of the things that I found to be really fulfilling is working with an organization called Inspiring Girls. And Inspiring Girls hits home for me because obviously I have 2 young little girls and, they are, kind of going into those years. They're getting close to becoming teenagers. And Inspiring Girls is a place where any of us can go as, leader in the industry or an executive or working for an organization and talk to girls about what they can do, as a professional in this world. A lot of them don't feel, because of the way that we bring up young women, they don't understand that they have, so many opportunities to become a leader and to become a voice in this world. So, just looking for ways to, help others and uplift others by becoming that mentor, and also guiding others to mentors and seeking out mentors for yourself. That's kind of my big takeaway, and, just really prevalent in everything that I do.
Love it. Absolutely love it. You talked about, inspiring girls there. It's important. We've talked about before, Can't See, Can't Beat campaign, which around in Ireland, which again was around, having the voice, but also being able to see who's at, because you made a point about who are the leaders in the industry? What's the percentage of female leaders? We don't know. And actually part of the starting this podcast was because I was pushed to celebrate the existing female leaders. And I was like, I don't know who they are. There's an element of, like LinkedIn is a good example, kind of just getting on doing it, not necessarily celebrating, not necessarily on the stage. So there's a visibility challenge that we need to overcome as well. And I think to your point, Kathleen, is there's some really great organizations doing really great work, which is where I'm really eager to amplify who's doing what, so we can help to, make sure that the visibility barrier is one we're taking down. Because again, the echo chamber, like, I've never heard of that organization, Kathleen, so it's fantastic for you to share it, so now we can all be aware of what they're doing and how they're doing it, and as well as others. the last question, because I appreciate, I'd love to talk more about the different aspects of, female-only gyms, female-only, solutions and resources and focus and customer experience and so on. But we won't get time for everything with it. But you talk about Steffi already. I mean, Steph is obviously an amazing, accomplished career already, but literally very young in her career still. So there's so much more with it. And I was, asking for you to call out one or two others as well of who are the established, who are the emerging leaders, female in particular, that we should be aware of as well as amplifying and spotlighting in order for them to also be another, Kathleen, inspiring more women to follow suit. And so who are they for you, Ian?
Well, clearly, we've got Steph. If we've got Steph has been placed out there for, and mentioned a few times, Hilary McGuckin and Michelle Tavassi are going to be two others as well. Both of them are incredibly experienced. They're both integral parts of my leadership team. They both add considerable value to the business on a daily basis. In the case of Michelle, we've been working together for 18 years now, 17 years, and she's worked in every business that I've ever had. She has she's adapted to every challenge. I mean, she now runs the engineering team, and yet she was the general manager of the boxing club at one stage during that time. From an emerging perspective, one person who I think is going to have a big impact on the industry if she stays within the industry is Olivia Milne. She is the GM for yoga movement over in Asia Pac. Liv was with me for 6 years beforehand. She's just gone through her 30th birthday, so she's still very young. In fact, she's getting married not far from us in a week's time. But Olivia is an example of someone who had the confidence to request guidance. She understood what she did not know. Yeah. She parked her ego very, very early on. She identified at the start of the year, and she came to me with specific areas where she did not feel she had the strength necessary to progress herself personally on her career basis. Anybody, any professional who's prepared to open themselves up to that type of vulnerability is going to grow on that type of basis. Now, and I've watched her move from marketing manager role to a commercial role within KeepMe to now running, 11 or 12 clubs across, 2 countries over Asia Pac, and, having the confidence to stand up and represent in customer functions, having the confidence to stand up in industry events. I mean, she deputized for me many, many times in that particular area. But at the same time, I know the graft that goes on day in, day out behind the scenes, where she's trying to learn better financial management, better P&L guidance, better understanding of balance sheets, better understanding of marketing characteristics, better approaches into the marketplace. That as an individual, I mean, she's not with me now. Obviously she's moved on, but it's the type of individual who you always keep your eye on, because she will lead a business one day, and she has not been afraid since she was mid-20s of saying that she has every intentions of leading a business one day, or being a Kathleen and actually running her own business on that particular side. So I think that's going to be a name to look out for, and many in the industry would probably agree, having met her.
Love it. 4 great call outs there. So it's brilliant. Kathleen, who do you see as the emerging and the established leaders we should be keeping our eye out for?
I have so many. I'm going to send you a list.
Great.
Top of the list, one call out I want to make is Bryn Scarborough. She is the CEO over at JK Wellness, but she's also developed a company, founded a company called Alchemy Leadership Lab that specializes in mid-career development for women. And I really love the LMS system that she's built that has structure surrounding, kind of where to go when you're kind of at that point in your mid-career and you're thinking about where you want to go in terms of taking that leap into leadership, whether it's your own company or within a different organization. She offers that guidance and development surrounding that topic. So she's also the one that turned me on to Inspiring Girls, because she shared a video clip from the Mattel Barbie Dream Gap campaign, which is absolutely a beautiful, stunning campaign. And I'm going to send you this video link because I want you to watch it, Grace. You'll love it.
Great.
But Yeah, she is just a powerhouse. She's fabulous. The other two call outs, I mean, there's so many, but I'd have to go with Laura Monkholm. She is the CEO and founder of a very interesting software company that does a personality match called Walla. She's doing some really innovative things here with boutique fitness. Amira Pollock does group programming software and technology for boutique clubs and studios. Just a powerhouse leader in our industry. She is constantly, on the stage, stepping up and sharing her perspective with our industry. She's an advocate for women in leadership. She's just one of those that she's been a part of my circle for a while. And again, when I look at someone and I talk about mentorship, she's probably one that I would consider a mentor as well. And there are so many. I think those three plus, Nicole Dunn. One more. Nicole Dunn.
Keep going.
She is a powerhouse leader in PR and media here in the United States, and actually she's prevalent in the UK as well. But she specializes in health, fitness, and wellness brands with a emphasis on women's health and wellness as well. So she would be another fabulous person to have on the podcast.
And luckily I got connected with Nicola recently as well, so had a great conversation. She is amazing. So yeah, completely linked there. And likewise with Bryn, got connected to her recently as well. Love what she's doing with her platform. So
yes,
but I will be looking for introductions for those that I don't know, because to your point of the idea is if we all work together, I do believe we'll get to a much stronger, better place. And there's huge opportunity for improvements in the way we run businesses to make a more active, healthy world. Because as we know, our statistics are not good in terms of whether it's chronic diseases or inactivity. Either way, lots of challenges, which means lots of opportunity. So from a business perspective, lots of opportunity, lots of great people in order to help other people to expand their thinking as well as expand their careers, and for us to actually hopefully implement as a much better, active, healthy world in a gender balanced approach. Fingers crossed. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation. I'd love to talk more. I think there's lots of connections I also want to make and more follow-ups, but it's been a pleasure. And I do appreciate the time you guys both have taken to have this conversation. It's hopefully one of many. It's hopefully one that generates more conversation on the back of this for leaders across the world, male, female, and different, across every part of industry, whether it's fitness or whether it's sport or whether it's longevity or health or tech or trading. I mean, hopefully. So the beauty of this is that it's a never-ending conversation because we've a never-ending challenge to an opportunity to tackle. So thank you both for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And Kathleen, you are welcome to come to Ireland or London anytime, but definitely to Ireland.
I'm packing my bags, Grace.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you for listening. You can connect the dots with others by sharing this podcast with colleagues and teammates. At wearethecollective.world, you can join a professional network, avail of professional development, and engage your support team. We collaborate on the shared pursuit for gender balance in health and business. Until next time, keep connecting the dots.